everyone. Welcome to the Spirit Society of San Diego for today. We're going to start by reading a message from our book, Happy Life, for inspiration. Don't yell. No situation calls for yelling, because it makes the situation even worse. When you speak in a normal tone, the rowdy will become silent so they can hear you. Should you try to compete with them by yelling too, you lose your voice and you will not be heard. The voice reveals a person's behavior and emotional state. We are not referring to the vocal dynamics of professional speaking, which does have its purpose, but to a natural, audible, and friendly tone. Have you heard yourself on tape, especially when upset? Try it. So let's close our eyes. Feel our body against the chair. Relax your mind. Take a deep breath in. Another deep breath in. And be committed to be focused here today, asking our mentors, our spiritual guides to be with us, opening our minds and our hearts to receive the inspiration and the lessons from our Master Jesus. We ask everyone, incarnated and disincarnated spirits, to open their souls to transformation as we focus on our self-transformation during the lesson and pay attention to what it means in our own lives. So with this prayer, we ask permission from the spiritual guides to open our work today. So be it.
Well, here we are again. We want to extend this welcome to all these, all the people that will be joining us through the media, which is great because sometimes we may not be here physically, but we can reach them through media. So everybody is welcome here to this Spiritist Society of San Diego. The topic that I'm going to talk today about is the individual in the world. And I want to first start with what entitles to be an individual in this world, in this planet Earth. We already know that we as individuals, as people in this earth, we are composed of three main factors. The first one is the physical body, everything that is tangible. The other part is the spiritual one, which is our spirit, and something might be in between of those two that we call the perispirit, which is semi-material portion of what we call individual. Logically, when we get rid of the physical body, we are pretty much, or become pretty much spirit with its perispirit with it, which gives the unique form of the unique portion, what we see when we are in the physical realm. being said that, I want to say something that starts with saying, a sentiment of piety must always animate the hearts of those who gather before the eyes of the Lord, imploring the assistance of good spirits. We have come to this point right now that we realize that we are existing, and we have been existing for a very long time. The physical life is not only temporary, but the spiritual life is infinite. That means our spirits, they have been created infinite. And that gives us a vision of what we are. We are not just on this planet Earth right now, just for 80, 90 years, maybe 100 if we're lucky. This is not it. We still continue on and on and on with more lives, with more experiences. We know for a fact that we'll be back again, reincarnating into another human body. We'll have more experiences, more opportunities for us to expiate those debts that we have gathered in the past. We consider ourselves very, very lucky to be here this time, at this era, this 2022 now, which we can say it really fast. But if we think about it, it's been over 2,000 years already for this time and this era of in the planet Earth. Now we have to bear in mind that this Earth and this life is not the only one that is existing. We are part of a whole universe. We cannot even count how many planets there are in the universe. So the picture is really, really, really a lot bigger than we think. But yet we think sometimes that what we are living right now at this very moment is the most important thing, without us realizing what's out there in space. For instance, since I was a kid, I started looking at the phenomena that happens in the mornings. We saw that the sun appears in the east and start moving to the west and disappears for a period of time. That was my conception back then. But then later on I noticed that the sun doesn't even move at all. It means that the earth is the one that is really moving. Takes 365 days plus or minus to go once around the sun. And just to compare, for instance, the biggest planet in this planetary system we live in, which is Jupiter, which is a lot greater than this planet, takes about 365 years to go once around the sun. So there's a big, big difference. So if that is a little bit complicated to understand, imagine what do we need to have in mind in order for us to understand a whole universe that is existing in our life. It's also amazing to think that we do know now that this particular time that we're living right now is a very interesting one. We carry a lot of things that we suffer. We have to pass through certain trials. Sometimes they're very hard trials to our lives, to our personal lives. But nevertheless, as this topic talks about, we're not individuals, only one. There's a whole, a big bunch of people living on this planet that we have to interrelate to one another. And that's what it becomes interesting. I know for a fact that, and we learned that we are living in an ocean of mental waves surrounding us all the time. Our thoughts is something that is not really thinking in ourselves, in our spirit, but it's something that once we start putting an idea, that idea spreads everywhere. Let's think about for a minute that if we are somehow capable to see all the radio waves and the communication waves right now, but that will drive us crazy right away, because the signals, they come from here to here and out of this thing. It's everywhere right now in this planet, and they keep adding more and more because people, they need to communicate. Well, the communication from one spirit to another one, it's in a certain way the same way we communicate. How do individuals, they communicate in this planet? It's simple to understand that a simple thought, a simple prayer reaches boundaries that they're well beyond what. But we have been also called to start thinking and getting the help of those that they're in the spiritual realm, whether they are our mentors, our guides, or someone in particular that we have the need to think on that person, on that particular friend, that particular family member that is in a need, and we convey those thoughts to that person, and it's amazing how that person received that mental energy that we're transmitting to them. And most of the time, we're supposed to send the best of our thoughts, the best for that person, in order for us to become a little bit more what they call charitable. One of the main things that the spirits, the higher spirits, they tell us to practice is that to increase our knowledge morally and intellectually. And we do that morally practicing charity. And that word does not really entitle for us just to deliver money or something with value to another person. The action of charity is a lot greater than we think of. Just by thinking and wishing someone well, we're taking care of that person in a more charitable way. We can gather in our souls a lot of happiness by doing so, by doing what they're asking us to do, meaning that we are entitled to help one another. Because as this topic is talking about, if a person gets by himself away from everybody else in the planet, he's not really living the laws of the society. If I go to a desert and I stay there for the rest of my days, I'm not doing anything. My duty is to be here talking to people, letting them know that happiness can be conquered by a better way to live our lives, by helping one another, by loving one another. And as Christ said and asked us to do is, he said, love your enemies. Which sometimes, if we think about it, is a lot more difficult to do. Sometimes we don't even care who's living next to us. I have a neighbor that she lives next door. Well, not next door, but next building. And honestly, I haven't visited her in her apartment for quite a while. And she's a really nice friend of mine. So that tells me that I do have to take action and care for other people, care for my neighbors. And that's what we're here for. I want to read something also here. Even though this topic is just a very little, reading very little of it. But something here that is talking about and is saying that we are called to put ourselves in contact with a spirit of different natures and contrasting characters. That tells me that we, even though we're living in the same society, in the same planet, we have characteristics very different one another. It's amazing that in a couple that is if that couple is married, almost certainly that one will think one thing and the other will think totally different thing. But we are called to have patience, understanding, and sometimes take a skill to really be tolerant. We do have to put a lot of effort in ourselves to understand our partners, our friends. Sometimes if we have a lot of things to worry about, we don't want to hear somebody else that's coming to us with some more worries than we have, or something more difficult than we are passing through. Then, with this in mind, what they're asking us for is to be patient, to learn to practice what Christ taught us, to love one another. There is no way no one can reach happiness if we do not love one another. We think about what is happening between Russia and Ukraine right now. They're not loving one another. And there's a conflict there that we don't really want to pass through that type of situation. And I just still do not understand. They haven't really thought about helping one another. Do they know that we are all children of God? We are all heirs of the same kingdom. And conversely enough, we will have to pass through in the future. Once we return back to the spiritual world, we will face our consequences. Why we did not practice charity? Why did we not love one another? So our thought about today is if we keep in synchrony in the same level of understanding with our mentors and guides in the spiritual world, and we know that they're there for them to help us out, they will be so glad to give us a hand in the moment of trial, in the moment that we need them most, whether it will be for us or for another friend or a family member that we need help with. I want to read something else that for me is very important. What it says here, it says, whatever you do, go back to the source of all things. Never do anything without the remembrance of God coming to purify and sanctify your actions. And also at the end of your chores, at the end of your tasks, before you start a task, first ask for the guidance and for the necessary instruction that you have to receive in order for you to perform that particular task. But at the end of it, go back to the same principle that you were calling for, to be thankful for what you have received. Before I start my day, I asked our Father that to help me in those tasks that I'm entitled to perform in that particular day. And I do that every single day. And then at the end of my day, before I go to sleep, then I thank Him for His assistance that I receive, for the assistance not only from Him, that comes from Him, but all our mentors and guides that they're surrounding us. I thank Him for the great opportunity for us to be here today, to come and do the work, to come and tell everybody else to love, to practice charity, which that makes us to grow, not only morally, but also intellectually. The words that will be put in our tongues, in our mouths, before we even say it, because He's the one in control. Our Father in the spirits is the one that we have the guides to do that, and that's the reason why I'm here, talking to you today. I want to read more before the time comes up. It also says here, be happy in accordance with the needs of humanity, but do not let your happiness to be tainted by any thoughts or actions that might offend or cloud the face of those who love you and direct you. Meaning that we have to be respectful for that particular guidance that we receive when we claim the assistance of the good spirits. They're there for us to help us out always. God is love and blesses those whose love is saintly. I cannot really express my self-gratitude for everything that our Father has allowed me to learn already. And not only to learn and keep it in my soul, in my heart, in the middle of in my spirit. It gets more than that. It's hard to understand that sometimes when we close our eyes, we keep seeing things. I said before, that is not really the eyes that they see. They just transmit light. It's not only our brain that is the one that thinks. In our brain is not really our memory in there. And a neurosurgeon will agree with me that if the memory is in the brain, if we put an electrode and then that particular zone in our brain is stimulated electrically, all our memory will come back to us. But they haven't even found where the memory is stored. And it's simple to understand that all there is storage, not in our brain, but in our spirit, is still there and will be there for a very long time. That's where we gather all this knowledge, and it's being there. And we'll keep that in there, whether we're in the physical realm or in the spiritual realm. That's what it makes us particularly special. We are a creation, a very particular creation of God. We're very special. But just not think only special in the physical aspect of ourselves. We're most in our spiritual aspect of our life that is eternal. I may lose my physicality tomorrow, but I will keep living. I will start seeing you, not with my physical eyes, but with the spiritual eyes. That, by the way, I learned the other day that the way a spirit sees, it not only sees only what we see, let's say 180 degrees here to here. The spirit sees 360 degrees. It's amazing. The communication with one spirit to another spirit is a lot greater than we communicate right now. I need vocal cords, I need ears, and you do the same in order for you to understand what I'm saying. Forget about that. I still have very different accents sometimes because of my roots, where sometimes I have the tendency to speak like a Mexican. But that's okay, as long as I could convey the message to you. That's enough. My dear friends, it is my testimony that God lives, that His Son Jesus Christ lives. And He's with us all the time. He's there for us, asking us to reach Him at any time we need to. If we pure our hearts to Him. Our spirits are there also to help us out, to direct us, to whisper, not only to our physical ears, but to our spirits, what to do in case of need. And that's what make us special individuals in this world today. And I really do think, I really thank to you for listening to these words that I say in the name of our beloved Christ. Amen.